Hello and welcome to the BB&J Show, Episode 9, Manga Episode 8. I will not let this die until somebody tells me to stop in the comments or in an email. To be fair, I haven't checked the email in a while, so there may be that in the email. I am Jay. This lovely being to my side there is BB. Say hello, BB. Tell the masses yearning to hear your voice hello.
Hi. God.
I think that is the most enthusiastic we've had BB in this entire run so far. How are you doing today, BB? I am wonderful to be here with you. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling very good.
That,
It's always awesome time to be with you.
hell yeah, that's exactly what that's what I like to hear. For those a little behind the scenes thing, this is we're outside of our normal recording time. It's
Mm-hmm.
actually earlier in the day for reasons. We typically record on Friday nights. We're actually recording Friday mornings. This is my first cup of coffee. I am fresh out of bed. So you're gonna get, I don't know, this is gonna be rare stuff you're gonna get from us. So
Yeah, because I apologize here. This was like last minute.
hey,
Get
listen,
up.
I wish I woke up looking that good.
Oh
So
my God.
BB, we have a few things we're gonna discuss today. We also said last week's episode was gonna be short. You know, we were kind of like in the production meeting, and like, man, we probably need to stretch some of this. This is gonna be over quick. And I was thinking to myself, yeah, maybe we'll have a 30, 40 minute episode. Turned out to be an hour. We had a similar thought this week, where what we're gonna discuss is kind of, we don't have so much in the terms of discussion, but the topics might bring out a long discussion. So we're going to see how long this episode lasts and which one of you troopers will stick through to the end. We'll find out. So, BB, are you ready to get us started?
I am ready. We have some pretty cool news. Max Payne 1 and 2 are getting a remake. That is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yay.
Golf clap.
It's being remade by looks like by the original studio Remedy Entertainment, and they've been kind of like on the stretch for a bit, trying to kind of, I guess, come to an agreement with like Rockstar, but
Mm-hmm.
I guess they finally got to an agreement, and yeah, they're going to be remaking them, and it's going to come in a bundle, so both games will come with the remake, like, I guess, purchasing it, right?
Yeah.
Um, Thoughts, Jay?
I'm Okay, so Max Payne, the first one, I didn't really play the second one as much, but Max Payne, the first one, holds such a special place in my heart. That is one of the original, the OG games that my brother and I played on my PS2. I'm
Mm,
talking 20 years ago now,
mm,
19 years ago. He'd come over, and we'd sit up all night playing Max Payne and trying to figure out how to go about it, because there were some dream sequences that involved puzzle
mm.
solving and things like that. So Max Payne 1 holds such a near and dear place in my heart. I love the New York City subway, if you haven't noticed over my shoulder. And the first stage or level of Max Payne takes place in the New York City subway. So I was just, through the roof. However, given Rockstar's immediate past track record with their definitive edition bundle of GTA and their GTA Online greedy whatever subscription nonsense they're rolling out, I'm a little worried. However,
Yep.
what makes me less worried is that it's the original studio that's doing it. So I'm hoping that love and care will go into it.
Mhm.
From my understanding, there was a small mobile game developer that took care of the entire definitive edition remake.
Yes. Yeah.
So that might be why that came out to be a steaming pile of shit. Um, this is the original studio, so we actually discussed some things. I'm gonna let you share your thoughts, and then we'll talk about
Mhm.
some of the things we discussed about potential changes that might come. Nothing's
Yeah.
been announced, but it's just thoughts that we've had, changes that might not be, in my opinion, better.
Yeah, that comes with pretty much its main thing being a remake,
Mm.
right? If it was like a remaster, right? Usually remasters just mean that they're completely taking the original game and just updating the graphics, maybe just a little bit of the gaming mechanics to kind of maybe fit like the modern gaming industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when they do a full remake, that means that they're going in and pretty much, I mean, taking from the game, right? But also redoing everything.
Right.
And we were talking about that before the show, which it's kind of like a like bittersweet because yes, I would love to see Max Payne remastered or
Mm-hmm.
redone, right? Because I mean, those games were just awesome, especially for their time. PS2 era,
Mm-hmm.
those
Mm-hmm.
were some really like I consider that like a heavy hitter from the PS2 era.
Yeah. Yeah. Same.
Um, and making them do with a brand new remake and everything, that sounds awesome. Like the visuals, we're already going to know like it's going to be awesome because they're going to use the Northlight engine, which
Mm-hmm.
is the games that were powered by or that powered Control and Quantum Break.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've ever seen those games, they look amazing,
Right.
especially the cutscenes, right? But we were talking about that, saying the cutscenes were probably one of the biggest and most unique things from Max Payne
Yeah.
because of how that art style they use and like how they made it feel like it was like a comic book, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like you said, there's nothing's really been announced on what they're going to do essentially, right?
Yeah.
But it makes me wonder, like, are they going to, when they say remake, are they just going to make a brand new thing, right? Where they're going to try to stay true to Max Payne 1 and 2, but also just redo it,
Yeah.
right, entirely? Or are they just going to, like I said, with the remaster, are they
Right.
just going to give us better visuals, better gaming mechanics, so it's not like super clunky?
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. And I mean, if they're going to use an engine like that, I hope for the engine to mostly focus on like the gameplay aspect of it, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
not necessarily the like cutscenes or the in between, because I think that was like the most unique thing from Max Payne.
Yeah. And as I mentioned before, it I mean, I put in. There was no hour tracking back in those days, so who knows how many hours I actually put into it. But
Yeah.
my brother and I would put in, many many hours into it, and so um, the cutscenes were the most unique aspect of it because you had Max Payne had a distinctive voice and he was narrating it, and
Yeah.
it's very noir style, old school
Mhm.
style. The engine, what I hope, because Control and Quantum Break and everything had a lot of bullet time like, which
Yes.
I'm hoping
Yes.
maybe that's what the engine is really brought into this
Exactly.
for, is like to update bullet time, because Max Payne was known for the bullet time feature. I'm of two minds because I wanted to
Mhm.
keep the art style and everything, but at the same time, since it's the same studio, if they say, you know what, we had this original vision in 2001 when we were developing the game, but we just didn't have the engine. Now we have the engine and the power. We're gonna do this original vision, and it's
Mhm.
different. It's their, since it's them, I sort of give them a little leeway. It's their own property, right? It's their own thing. It's
Correct.
their
Yeah.
own, So like, I give them a bit of leeway in saying, okay, if you guys want to tinker with it, let's see what you can do. Like, I give them the benefit of the doubt a little bit more than to
Correct.
say Rockstar was coming in, or some other studio, EA, for example, was coming in and like, no, those comic book, no, we need TikToking and flossing, yeah, yeah. Then I'd be like, please stop, go die in a ditch. But so I hope the engine is used for the bullet time mechanic, and you know, TBD on the cutscenes. As I say,
Yeah.
I'm of two minds. I kind of would like to see a change, but at the same time, uh, I yes and no. Maybe a hybrid. Maybe there'll be a way that you can have two modes, right? Like, what was it?
Oh.
Halo
Ah.
Halo 2, with
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
remastered Halo 2,
The
you can just
remaster.
press a
Yeah.
button and the graphics go
Go
back to
back
the
to.
original. Maybe they have a thing like that where you can, before you start the game, you can set your cutscenes. Do you want
Yeah.
your cutscenes to be old style, original style, if you will, or new style? And let people,
True.
choose. Because I don't imagine, I'm not a game developer, and I don't play one on TV, but I don't imagine the original cutscene art style, the way they did it, would take up too much processing power to where they couldn't do it.
Correct. Like, I mean, you're right. I think that might be pretty doable. I mean, I just hope that if they do like redo like the cutscene stuff, that they maybe just make it more comic booky, right? Like
Mm,
with the technology that they have now, maybe make it even more into a comic than it was back then.
yeah.
But the interesting part too was that this the developers are making the game, or it's coming to only like just next gen consoles and PC.
Mm,
So the PC, PS5, Xbox Series, right?
yeah.
So that makes me think like they're going to put a lot of, like, if they're using that engine, it's probably going to be very, very like highly detailed, I'm assuming,
Yeah.
because if they want to use the power of like the next gen consoles and PC, I mean, that just tells you that they're going to probably, I hope, take their time with this. They haven't given a release date. They said there's the early stages of it, right?
Yeah.
But if they do, if it's gonna be for next gen console, I'm assuming it's gonna take a while for them to to do all of this, and it's not going to be just a simple. We have the game, just copy pasta, but like rework the graphics, right?
Yeah.
So that's why, with it coming just to PS5 and Xbox Series and PC, that's why I think that they're probably gonna redo most of it. So,
Probably. And
you know,
I'm I always kind of like, oh, they just want people to buy their new consoles. But
hmm
the more I guess the older I get, I don't know, but I find myself more and more against this split generation release because a lot of games end up suffering because of split generation releases.
yeah, correct, yeah,
Dragon Age Inquisition was one that they had to water down because it was a split
mm,
generation release. I think the DLCs only came out on next gen, or one of the DLCs only came out. I think the expansion at the end only came out
okay,
for PS4, if I'm not mistaken,
okay,
and it had a lot more, mechanics in it, and you could see that they could have done more. So, I mean, Cyberpunk was one, I believe, as well that
mm,
suffered from a cross generational release, and so I kind of I'm okay with them sticking to, you know what? No, we're gonna do next
yeah,
generation,
yeah,
and look, I understand some people may be frozen out because of it, but at the same time, you have an out. You can play it on PC.
yeah,
This has got me thinking about the KOTOR remake, and now there's been no news on that since its
mm,
announcement.
mm-hmm,
But it's just I'm really excited for the KOTOR remake, but also really scared for the KOTOR remake.
yeah,
Huge Knights of the Old Republic fan. Like I huge Knights of the Old Republic fan. My entire summer of my 10th grade year, from 10 to 11th grade, the summer of 2005 was spent with an Xbox in an air conditioned room, just playing KOTOR. So it reminds me of KOTOR in the sense of like you want them to update KOTOR, right? You want them
mm-hmm,
to redo a lot of because it plays. I love it. I can still play it, but it's clunky as a motherfucker, and you're playing a voiceless protagonist, so it kind of like feels dated. But at the same time, that was part of the charm. There was a lot of charm to it. There's a lot of charm to
yeah.
some of these old games, and a lot of times these remakes come out, and people kind of feel like, it's like a wet fart in church. It doesn't. People don't really like it as much, and it's because
Yeah.
it takes away the charm. You know,
Talking about remakes and the charm, right?
and wet
Um,
farts in church.
yeah, that. Um, I'm sorry. Talking about the remakes, right? That kind of brings it to another game too. Red Dead. Oh my gosh, you see, you got me thinking of random stuff now. Dead Space, the remake.
Yeah.
I freaking loved Dead Space, the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Second one and third one, they kind of went more on like the action type of blockbuster type route, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that first game was terrifying. I still remember back in like PS3, it was so scary. Everything, like, you had to like, it wasn't even just jump scares. It was just kind of like the game tricking you certain times. Like when you go in corridors, you think, oh snap, something's gonna pop out. Nothing popped out. It's just like the ambience of the music and everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're getting a remake too. So I totally understand to you that some games, like the originals, right?
Mm-hmm.
They do have like a certain charm that you're just kind of like, damn, like just the way it is it's perfect, right?
Yeah.
And then when you get a remake, it's so hard. Like we still haven't seen anything that's like keeps you in that moment like from the original ones. And obviously, I know, I mean, you've played it already, so you kind of understand the
Yeah.
game and it's
Yeah.
different, right? But I can only say probably that maybe the Resident Evil 2 remake is probably the closest thing to like staying true to the fans, like the fan
Mm-hmm.
base and the story, but also modernizing it, right? Um, but in a way, you still can't like, how do I put it? Like take that charm from that first game, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
pass it on. It's very hard. I mean, if anything, I haven't seen it yet. So you're right. I'm excited for it, but also it's kind of like I don't know.
I would say my personal opinion would be the Mass Effect Legendary Edition.
Mm, mm.
As I keep saying
I totally forgot about that. You're right.
yeah, I
You're right.
keep saying I'm a huge fan of these games, but these are all my G spots as far as games are concerned. Um, Mass Effect. It took off from KOTOR actually after because both made by BioWare. I spent a lot of time in 2007 and 8 and 9 playing Mass Effect 1. And so when the Legendary Edition came out, I was very excited for it. And they did, I believe, what BioWare did was the perfect balance.
The
They
perfect balance. Okay.
modernized, they unified the game's, combat and UI throughout all three.
Mm-hmm.
They kept the charm of one while updating subtle things. They did it subtly. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't like, let's go in and just redo everything. They
Yeah.
tweaked
Yeah.
subtle things here and there. Some of the mini games, some of the, moments, and they even reworked some of the fights. They made things larger. Some things, cutscenes and sequences changed a little bit. It wasn't drastic though. That was the
Mm-hmm.
thing. It wasn't like let's go in here and drastically overhaul everything. The graphics were toned up. The gameplay was tuned up, and there were some things that were tweaked here and there, and it felt uniform throughout all three games. But it
Mm-hmm.
kept the charm of the first one, and it kept the charm of the subsequent games. So if I had to look, because I haven't played the Resident Evils, I do
Yeah.
agree though that the Resident Evil remakes, they seem to be really good and just really on par with what the originals were. But
Mm-hmm.
as far as games that I played the original and the remake, to me, Mass Effect: The Legendary Edition did it the best. It was because they took subtle things. They didn't
Yeah.
go in with a sledgehammer and tear down everything to the studs and redo everything. Not that that's really a bad thing, but excuse me. But if you're trying to keep the charm of the old game,
Exactly. Yeah.
it makes it
Yeah, and
difficult.
see, the thing is, like, I haven't played the Legendary Edition yet. I been
Shame,
meaning
shame.
to. I know because I love Mass Effect. Um, but I did watch you play through all of them, right? And I caught some of the DLCs that you did, and I could tell you had a great time. And just watching it visually, I was like, wow, this is Mass Effect, just
Yeah,
modern, better.
yeah,
Um, and to me, I might be wrong, but to me, that stuff is kind of like that game to me was more like a remaster,
mm-hmm,
right, than a remake because they
yeah,
didn't really remake anything. It was the whole entire story, everything was the same.
mm-hmm,
But they just, like you said, they tweaked it.
yeah,
They updated some stuff to kind of like so it wouldn't be as clunky as it was before.
yeah,
And I'm okay with like remasters.
mm-hmm.
I mean, except for GTA
That's,
Definitive
that's a
Edition.
that's a demaster. That's
Oh
not even a
god,
remaster.
yes.
That's a
Oh my
demaster.
god. So with the Resident Evil one, it's kind of like it's different because yes, it's a remake, but it's also they changed the entire way of the game because playing the originals, it was never like that third person like
Yeah,
shooter type, right? It
yeah.
was always like that weird angled camera where
Mm.
you couldn't even aim. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
why that was like a huge thing back then because like Silent Hill series, I remember seeing that. I remember seeing that that was
Mm-hmm.
also something like that like
Mm-hmm.
back in the PS1. Now probably because it was PlayStation 1. I mean, they couldn't really do much, right? But
There's a limit to what they could do in those days.
yeah, that was like first person shooting back then, I guess.
Look, it's the dark ages, you young whippersnapper, okay? Back in my day, we didn't have patches and updates. You had to buy a game completely.
But you see, that's like, in a way, that's like the charm, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of like the charm, because it's the whole thing that made Resident Evil good, because it was like you couldn't really aim, so it gave you that edge of like survival, right? Where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to kill the zombie, right? And like you can't even aim at it, and you're just like, aim at it, you know. And now it's more action packed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the remake for Resident Evil 2, I thought, was pretty good, because they still added that horror element, right?
Mm-hmm.
That the original gave, but they just, in the end, it's still technically considered like an action horror game.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that is kind of like what takes away some of that charm, because like that's why I'm not too, like, I'm excited for the Dead Space, but I'm also just thinking that, like, I'm not getting too hyped for it, because I don't know if they're going to keep that whole you know, like, horror element to it. That's what made that game, like, to me, a gem for its time. And the thing too is that game already was pretty good. Like, a remaster would have been, I think, would have been the route to go. But they're making a completely new remake. That means, I'm assuming, changing the story a bit, changing the mechanics of the game. So
EA hasn't shit on Dead Space enough. Let's do some more.
That's what I'm saying. Like, we saw the sequels, how they turned out to be more of an action shooter than a horror game, right? Every now and then they'll stick in some jump scares, but to me, that's not horror. That's just like, I got you, right?
Yeah,
like, that's it. But like horror is like when you're in there, you're scared to go into this like hallway because you don't know what the hell's gonna come out, right?
Yep.
Instead of like blasting your way through, that's different. So if the remake, I hope that remake goes well, but you know, it comes back to this, you know, the charm that you get from that first game, from those first games. Are they gonna be able to kind of stick to it, or maybe give us a new way to enjoy the game, right?
Right. I mean, so I'll tell you, you know, we kind of spiraled away from Max Payne, but I was just sort of thinking about remakes and games nowadays, and I think one of the larger issues is games don't have the atmosphere they used to. Resident Evil, the original Resident Evil's the atmosphere, and I think it was down to the fact that the graphics weren't so detailed. You weren't given this great view of everything, right? You weren't given this. You were just like, if you're going through a door, everything was black but the door, you know, and the door would open.
Oh my God, that door sequence.
Yeah, or the ladder sequence, or you know, things like that would be.
Oh my God.
You wouldn't know what's on the other side. You wouldn't know what you're loading into. You wouldn't know. So it's like it added to the tension of it. I'll say one modern game that sort of is done sort of horror-ish well, I believe, is Alien Isolation, and I'm playing through that, and I'm not playing it alone. I'm playing with I'm streaming it for a friend, and if I did not have the friend there with me, I would be shitting bricks.
Yeah.
So you know, that's a game but it does the atmosphere right.
Yeah.
You know, it's about the atmosphere, because you can't just go willy-nilly around. And it's very rare that games do that. So I think a lot of it is the atmosphere. It's kind of the double-edged sword of having such high-fidelity graphics that you can sort of see everything. Like, what was Silent Hill's charm? The fog. You know, you couldn't see past a certain point. You couldn't, you know. So, I don't know. I think that's kind of also part of the reason why remakes sort of lose the charm of the older games, is because they detail everything, which is not a bad thing. But when you have so much detail and view, it's like, you know, when you're able to fix the camera of Resident Evil and see what's around the corner, it takes away the what the hell's around the corner, you know?
No, you're right. So that's why I hope that the Max Payne coming back to Max Payne, I hope that it goes well. I think that it is in good hands because it's the original developers.
Yeah.
I just don't know how I feel with like the modern type of games, right? Because I recently played. I had never played Max Payne 3, and I recently played Max Payne 3, and it was good. I liked it. I mean, mostly because the visuals looked good, right?
Yeah.
But I think that it being the modern type of game, like it was, I felt like, I don't know, I was missing that classic feel,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
this is hard for me to say because like we all know that retro games make
Yeah.
my eyes hurt, right?
Yeah.
But
We got to
but
get you to play Witcher 1 at some point.
oh um I don't know. It just had that. It to me, it was missing some of that like that you keep saying the charm. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really have a charm in Max Payne 3. It was more. It felt mostly like. I mean, I know it was the third game in the series, but it was like a wrap.
Yeah.
Like it was like, okay, we're just gonna wrap this up, and we're gonna throw in, a kind of a pretty good story with a little bit of flashback scenes and stuff, and then that's it. Like, so I didn't really feel too much from the game other
Yeah.
than it being more modern. That's it. So
I
that
liked.
with Max Payne 3, it kind of has that. Like, are we gonna get that same thing with the remaster or the remake? Right? I don't
Yeah,
know.
I hope not, because I found Max Payne 3 to be incredibly underwhelming, to be honest with you. As someone who
Hmm.
played all three, well,
Oh,
I played 2 a little bit, but I didn't play
okay.
much of 2. But as someone who played the original, and Max Payne 3 was just kind of like, put. Like, it
I
just,
see.
the story didn't hook me. It just seemed, like, at the end, because, there's that twist reveal at the end,
Oh yeah.
and it's just kind of like, really? Like, I don't know. It kind of seemed like it tried to do, like, that movie A Man Apart. Or not A Man Apart, Man on Fire with Denzel Washington.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah,
You're right.
it tried to do
You're
that,
right.
but it
Hmm.
didn't do it as well. And it
No.
was like, no, stop it,
Yeah.
dude. It's like, just stop it. Ron. Like that one Harry Potter cartoon. It's Leviosa. It was just like, it was just bad. It's just bad. I'm waiting for it. It's too early in the morning for this, fam, from you at some point.
I'll DM you later.
Uh,
Oh my
but I think
gosh.
that, speaking of wrap up, I think that's pretty much, the button and nose on the Max Payne deal remake. We're going to see. Wait and see.
Yeah.
I cautiously optimistic, the same I am with
Hmm.
Kotar. We'll see what happens. My personal opinion, the best way to do it is have the option, you know, keep
Yeah.
the,
That'd be cool.
have the option if you're gonna start a story, go with the
Hmm.
um, retro cutscenes or modern cutscenes or whatever. But
Yeah.
speaking of games and modern games and stuff, Sea of Thieves recently celebrated 1 million Pirate Legends, and as such, they released a update, and there was some news on private servers. And now, if you're not familiar with Sea of Thieves is a pirate sort of MMO, really, um, and you can play with up to 3 other friends on a ship. You have 3 different types of ships. Each they're capped with crew. So what that means is the smallest ship, the max number of people that could be on it is 2. The middle ship, the max number is 3, and the largest ship, the
Hmm.
max number is 4. So if you start a session, for example, with 2 people and a third friend wants to join, you have to start a completely new session. It is near
Yeah.
impossible for that third friend to start their own ship and join you in your server. There is a workaround in game that you can do, but it requires finding someone who's incredibly gracious. And the in game workaround is essentially you find another ship with 1 person or a few people on it, and if they're logging off, you then have them invite your friend to
Yeah.
their ship, and then you can have 2 ships that way. It's very
Mhm.
convoluted, it's difficult, and it's very rare that it happens. So, one of the things that a lot of the Sea of Thieves community, myself included, has been asking for and crying out for is custom servers, or
Yeah.
at least the ability to join a friend server, find the server kind of thing. So private servers have been, or custom servers have been, sort of teased and worked, and there's a an announcement made about it. I'll read what was said about it. This is from, I believe, the Sea of Thieves site. This was posted on my Discord. There's a link to it. It said, uh, With this in mind, the initial feature set for our alpha release is absolutely reflective of the goals above, meaning private servers, giving these creators and community groups with swift access to custom servers and an ability to run custom events and invite players from their communities to take part. So the key features, and this is where we get into the mixed bag part of it. The key features are the ability to set up a custom server, customization of ship numbers and types prior to starting, as I was saying, the small, medium, and large ships.
Yes.
Generation of a code to distribute to community members to allow them to join. However, here's the really bad part: no gold or reputation progress from custom server sessions. So essentially what that means, you play the game, as I said, it's an MMO. So what you get in this game is gold is the in-game currency. You buy things. There's 3 types of currency because, of course, it's an MMO. But gold is the most basic game currency that you buy, ship customizations and outfits and things. Progression you need, as we said, they celebrated a million pirate legends. In order to get that, you have to get, there's several factions. You have to get your reputation to at least level 50 with at least 3 factions. So you will not get a reputation. You will not get gold from these sessions. So the question then becomes, what the hell's the point? Right.
Exactly.
So, BB, you've been playing Sea of Thieves recently with us, and you know how fun it could be. What do you think is this an overall positive, or mixed bag, or generally just a wet fart that they shot themselves in the foot with the no gold and reputation progression?
I think it's a positive wet fart. If that makes sense.
If anybody's had a wet fart, I want you to think of how it could have been positive. Go on.
Because, the biggest thing is that they are finally talking about custom servers, right? It may not be the way that people want it or even imagined it would be. I mean, it's kind of 50-50 for me, because yes, I'm excited for to be able to play with my own crew and have the amount of ships that we can have or whatever, right? But it comes down to the whole, what is the point of playing on a private server? Because I mean, if you can't rank up, if you can't earn anything from that, then why would you why would you be playing? I mean, it's having fun is one thing, right? And it's important, but also you also have fun different ways, and one of those things is rewards, progression, and if you can't get that, then I think that's taking, if anything, this is taking away. It's almost as if the conversation of a private server starts back to point 0 of we want private servers. It's all this kind of doesn't do anything, right? So I do understand it, maybe for just for PvP elements where you would want to grab all your friends and go against each other. I could see that as a positive way, right? Because it's oh, well, like me, 1v1 me. I mean, come on.
There you go.
And everyone could have their own crew, right? And just do 1v1s, or ship on ship battle, right? But how far will that go to where you want to keep doing that, right? It just becomes a thing where it's okay, you did it once, cool. They're that was awesome. You did it twice, all right. And then 4, 5, 6, and then it stops, right? Because it's just the same thing over and over, and there's no now, if they hadn't added that, where in the private server where if you did PvP you would get rewards from that, then I mean that makes sense. It gives you a path to follow. But with this, it almost feels like they just dropping the world and things in it, and that's it. There's no, it's like a open sandbox, but nothing to do in it, right? And I understand it, because I know why people want the private servers. Now, I played Sea of Thieves when it first came out. All this stuff that's in it right now, I had no idea this was in it. That's why I'm having such a great time playing with you guys, because it's I'm getting to see why this game is still around, right? Because when it came out at first, it was pretty rough. They didn't really have much in it. It was very vague.
Mm-hmm.
um, of what you could do. And now the community, I mean, they're celebrating now, right? And
Yeah.
so I understand why it's so big. And I'm like, man, this is so much fun. Like you can have so much fun just going to see doing your contracts or your bounties, or picking your factions, and it's just awesome. But then you get to that point where it happened to you guys, where you get people who are either cheating, or they all come against you, and they're just like, and you can't even do what you want to do without
Yeah.
getting raided and stuff. And I understand that that's part of the game.
Yeah.
But there's people who just want to enjoy the game like a PvE style,
Yeah.
right? I used to be a PvP person. I used to be very into PvP games and competitive games. Um, but slowly, I don't know if it was me getting older or just playing too much of them. I just got tired of it because I can't. I think to a point, PvP becomes, not all games, but to me, PvP constantly just becomes like toxic at some point,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because you're just like, oh, you get raged or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I never rage of it. Come on,
Yeah.
never.
Yeah.
Um,
Snow runner.
but you get to that point, and so I can understand like them wanting to have this custom server where you can just invite your friends and do PvE and still do everything you can just with your own crew or by yourself,
Yeah.
whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Not having to worry about anyone, stealing your stuff or cheating or whatever. So it's like awesome. We get custom servers, but poop because there's nothing to do in it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I will say it's funny. I had two, like, within the span of a week. I had the single best Sea of Thieves experience I've ever had, and the worst. Like literally within the span of a few days. So it was a day in which, as I said, to get multiple ships on the server is near impossible. There was a day in which we found someone to do that, and I joined aggression, and we already had 3 friends on the server in a middle-sized ship, and then we had made an alliance with another player who we hadn't known up until that point. They became a friend afterwards, but we made an alliance with them, and so we had 3 ships in an alliance, and we go do this event on the map, and another small-sized ship shows up. They asked to be in the alliance, and we were like, okay. And then the largest type of ship shows up as well, and they asked to be in the alliance. So there's 5 ships now, and the server can hold only 5 ships. So the entire server is at this event, and the last 2 ships that showed up were acting very suspicious, and I had stayed on Gresham and I's ship because I didn't trust it.
Yeah.
And so lo and behold, the 4th and 5th ship that showed up in the alliance betrayed us. And so it touched off a server-wide war, basically. It was a 3 versus 2 versus the NPCs that spawned, because the island was shooting, and then skeleton ships spawned, and so it was about 45 minutes of the most crazy, intense ship-to-ship combat, and Gresham, myself, and a friend Dorn, we were giggling like school kids, because this was like, we were having fun. This was the fun aspect of it. And so I love that. And then there was that's the following Saturday we were streaming, and we ran into people who were they were cheating. There's just no two ways about it. They were not dying. Their ship was not sinking, and it's not that we weren't making shots. We were actually shooting them, stabbing them with swords. We were doing everything that you do in normal PvP combat. They were just not dying. So it was like, I will take the ability not to get gold and reputation to avoid people like that, because people like that just suck. The thing with that I'm curious about, and we have to get more information, is you could set up private custom events. Now, when they say no gold and progression, maybe they're talking about no gold and progression as you know it, but there's these custom events that get you sort of custom rewards, a custom sort of a different type of progression, reward system somewhat. If that's the case, then you know what? There's points to it. It's like, okay, if you can set up events, what's the what if you're not going to get anything from it? What's the point, right? Is it just to do it? Like,
Correct.
Are you going to be able to set up the map in the sense of like, okay, I'm setting up a custom server that has, two Kraken spawns, or,
Oh god.
increased Meg spawns, or, 100% more skeleton ship spawns, or,
Mm.
what's the events that you can set up? How does it. It's a lot of vagueness in the details, but
Yeah, yeah.
I
See, you saying that
yeah.
sounds very exciting. Like if that is what you could do, because then that's what I was talking about. Like where they just put you in like an empty thing and you just go around doing basically nothing, right?
Yeah.
If they're adding that, Jay, then that I can understand the trade off of like no gold, no reputation, or whatever, right? Because it's
Yeah.
like, well, you get to experience everything times 10, right? That sounds like chaos, right?
Yeah.
So I could see that. I could see that
That
way.
would be cool, but at the same time,
Mhm.
again, okay, say you have a map with 4 Kraken spawns and 25 skeleton ships. You do
Yeah.
that once or twice, and then it's kind of like,
Yeah, exactly.
okay. And then you kill the skeleton ships, you kill the Kraken. You can't sell the Kraken meat. You can't sell the loot from the skeleton ship. So you're not like there has to be some trade off. Other like what is the event, right?
Mhm.
What is the custom events that we can set up? How do they work? That's what I'm waiting on to determine whether or not I see this as a positive or a negative, because so far I don't mind it, but I see it having a very limited shelf life. If
Right.
if I could set up, right, if I could set up a custom server and have 5 of the largest ships, right,
Mhm.
or one of the largest ships, 2 of the medium sized ships, and 3 of the smaller ships, or whatever, however, to get to 5, because I'm assuming they're still capping it at 5. If I can set that up and then be like, we're gonna go up against 50 skeleton ships or something,
Yeah. Yeah.
that would be fun. You get your closest, you get your buddies together. That would be a lot of fun. I would want to do that. That's like a real, ship to.
Exactly.
But
Yeah, that would definitely be
how
fun.
many
Yeah.
times can you do that? How many
Yeah.
times can you? You know what I mean? Like, even Red Dead Redemption 2, the bounties that we were doing. What was the fun of the bounties? When we were waiting for the clock, it would be everybody lassoing each other, and
Yeah.
like it. Things reach a shelf life, and
True.
I don't know that they've done enough in this private server, custom server thing to to satiate that. What I think, here's my idea, and I want your opinion
Okay.
on it.
Gotcha.
Here's what they should do: instead of custom servers, have PVE and PvP servers, and allow people have server names and regions, and allow people to join specific servers. That would, to
Yeah.
me, solve everything, in my opinion, because you can keep your gold and reputation. You could have
Correct.
servers that have only PVE, so that way people who want PvP and who are inclined to cheat and do these sorts of things, they go to a certain area. And if you're like, hey, I'm on EU West server, Slapnuts, you can have a friend to load up Sea of Thieves and look for EU West server Slapnuts,
Yeah.
join your server, and you can do it that way. And you guys can do quests and things and still earn and get your reputation. That's how I would do it. I think that would solve the issue. I'm curious of what you think on that.
No, I think that may be the closest thing to a perfect solution. Because you're right. If you have multiple servers and you just divide it between PvE and PvP, I think that's perfect because I'm not saying take away PvP because people love PvP. I
Yeah,
mean, eventually you'll want to do that, right? But
yeah,
I think that you should have um the choice to do that because not it's the same way for PvE. Not everyone likes PvP. I mostly play PvE games.
yeah.
Every now and then I'll play a PvP game. But I prefer to do things with friends and battle AI
Mhm,
and all that, right? It's just,
mhm.
the sense of cooperation to me is a lot better than like the sense of like, going against somebody,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Um but you're right. I think that would be a really good solution for it to
Mhm.
have a PvE only like server and or servers, right? And then
Yeah.
you can go into one, have a max amount of players, right? Like I understand what they're doing with the whole like 4 squads, right? Like that's pretty basic in all in all games,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But if they made it to where it's a server, it's not a group, but it's a server base, right? And then the players are in there, and then you find each other, right? That to me is a good solution because it avoids having to do the whole workaround that we're doing now, where it's like we find someone else if they're happy enough to have us on their ship and everything. They invite you to the group, they leave, and now we have grouped together,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
um that would be the workaround around that. I mean,
yeah,
it would literally just solve that problem, and then it'll also solve the problem of having people come in and literally just take everything from you, especially
yeah,
if they're cheating or not.
yeah,
And I've read a lot of the forums and a lot of the community comments in the Sea of Thieves page, right?
mm-hmm.
And that is literally like the biggest issue that people have. It's mostly just people wanting to enjoy a PvE experience. They
Yeah,
don't want nothing to do with PvP. And they just are tired of like going to a specific vault, like how we went
yeah,
to a vault and everything, and then this crew just was. Now I get it, skill level can matter, people can be better than you at the game, but like, I mean, we weren't bothering anyone, we were just doing our thing, and then someone comes along and then just takes everything from you.
yeah, and
I
and
mean, I don't know. It's just I think you're right. I feel like that would be a really good
yeah.
solution to that.
Yeah, and there are some like factions that they don't require PvP, but they encourage it. You know, Reapers, for
Hmm.
example, you get
Yeah.
more faction sort of XP if you loot, if you sink and loot other
Mm.
people, and if you, each faction has what's called an emissary, where you put a flag up on your ship representing them, and the more of their type of loot that you get, the higher the grade of your emissary is, and you can,
Yeah.
for the Reapers faction, you sort of the higher the grade emissary that you sink and sell, the more you get. I understand that that's encouraged, but you got to find a way to sort of keep them on PvP servers. Look, there's nothing wrong with PvP. I'm not
Yeah.
against it,
Yeah.
and what happened to us, look, that crew was just better than we were. And it's fine.
Yeah.
I don't
Exactly.
mind losing to people who are better, at the game. There
Hmm.
was one time in which I started playing, and we were new, and we were in the largest type of ship, and we had just started, and literally a ship comes along, same type of ship, and they just put chain shots, which knocked down our mast. They were really smart about it. They immobilized us. They jumped on our ship. They killed us. They put us full of holes. They sank us. It was perfect strategy. It was actually impressive. I don't mind that kind of stuff. It's like that's fine. But there are days in which I don't want to be bothered. I don't want to be, and
Exactly.
it's instead of, they had a mode, the arena mode, which is like a PvP heavy mode and everything. And if they were able to do that, I think they can separate PvP and PvE servers
Exactly. Right. That's what I
and
was
sort
thinking
of,
too.
you
They
know,
do have a PvP mode. You're right.
yeah, they
And
used to, they
and
took it out.
I don't understand why they wouldn't have like I I get the game. I
Yeah.
get I get the game, right? I get that they are making this kind of like the closest thing to like a pirate simulator, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
their version of a pirate simulator where I mean in pirates would go and combat each other and steal from each other, right? Or
Yeah.
whatever.
The
Um
pirate.
exactly, yeah. and and so I get that that's the style of the game, but I think that the way that they kind of make it like, oh, what's one of the story they added, the Pirates of the Caribbean, right?
Yeah.
The Caribbean, like they added that story, but that's like a group story. Like
Mm-hmm.
when you enter that story, it's just you in that story
Yeah.
with your friends.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're in a way they do encourage like cooperation,
Mm-hmm.
right? So to me, I feel like they could even have 3 modes, right?
Yeah.
They could have PvE, the regular game mode that offers PvE and PvP, and you can switch whenever you want to between in the same server, or just a PvP server. That's it. Like I don't see what the like why they want to like just keep it. that
they
way.
they already separate types of servers because when you start the game, you have two
Mhm.
types of servers you can pick from: the regular or the Pirates of the Caribbean
Well,
servers.
yeah.
So
Oh, you're right. You're right.
yeah,
Yeah,
so they
yeah,
already separate types of
yeah.
servers. So I think Rare should put a pause on custom servers and transition to PvE versus PvP servers and letting people
Hmm.
find specific servers. Start labeling specific servers, region and whatever, and then just let people find them. Like when you log in, have it say at the top of your screen, I'm on, you're on whatever, America West or America East server,
Yeah, yeah,
Tickle Me Timbers, whatever, and have someone, be able to server hop, and
yeah.
that would be the my solution, and I think it would be the closest thing to what the community wants. The closest thing you get to a sort of ideal, optimal experience.
Hmm. Yeah, I
And
mean, the
if you're
thing too
cheating in
is,
Sea of Thieves, this is for you.
oh goodness. um, the thing I was looking at too was like, I mean, I don't think Rare is really known to have like this amount of players, like in one
Yeah,
place before, right? So
yeah.
I guess in a way they're also new to this, right? This new like because essentially it's become this huge
Mm-hmm.
MMO now. Like there's so many people playing and
And it's the only really decent pirate game out there.
yeah, exactly. Like we've heard of other ones that just went nowhere or are still in early access, and that's been for some years now and
Yeah.
hasn't gone anywhere, right? But you're right. Like this is the best. If I think it is the best pirate game out right now because
Yeah.
there is none other one.
It's it's Sea of Thieves is really, people love it because it's like, as I said, one of the only real pirate games out there. I mean, there's another sort of pirate
Mm,
ish kind of game that Angry Joe covered, but it's buggy and trash and garbage. This is, people love this game, and just as a side note to you, BB, for you, Rare, you know what game they're known for, right?
yeah, I do.
GoldenEye, your favorite game.
I was gonna say something else, but
No, Rare is known for GoldenEye. That was their
no.
first. That's what put them on the map.
Ooh,
So
yikes! No wonder they don't got no servers. I'm playing. um. Well. No, I totally understand, dude. Like the other game I think you were mentioning was called Atlas,
mm,
and I remember watching that trailer.
mm-hmm.
I actually have that game, believe it or not, and I haven't played it in like.
Oh wait, no,
Woo!
different. That's actually a different game. I know the game you're
Oh
talking about.
no!
Yeah, Justified Karma and Regression. I think played it once, and
Mhm.
I was watching their stream, and I was like, this looks really interesting if it's anything like I think it's gonna be. Because I did see that trailer you saw. That game is
Yeah.
absolutely nothing like the trailer.
No, dude, what a lie! Like,
Yeah.
what a freaking scam that was. Because essentially, what it was, it started off as like a DLC for another game,
Mm-hmm.
and then they were like, no, let's actually, you know what, this might be a good thing to do, and they made it into a big game, not knowing, I guess, how much goes into games. I don't know, you know, but but yeah, you're right. That I think then that might be a different one because I know there's one other game that's supposedly well, not supposedly, it's still in development, and it was the Skull and Bones,
Mm.
that is was supposed to be the competitor to Sea of Thieves, right? When Sea of Thieves was came out and it was on going on for some time, Skull and Bones was announced, and I think that's Ubisoft.
Oh
And
God.
yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
And at first we got like a gameplay trailer or something like a while back, and it looked really cool the way that you could like command your ship and your friends can like man the cannons and everything, but it was only a ship battle like simulator, right? Excuse
Mm.
me. And so I think when they saw how successful CFDs was becoming with the whole like an actual pirate kind of life,
Yeah.
um they just threw it back in and were like, okay, let's add actual like player gameplay where you can go out of your ship into the islands and stuff. But that was like, I don't know, 2017, 2016 maybe, I don't know. And it's been
5 years, 6 years.
Yeah, it's been still in development or something like that.
You know what?
So I don't know.
You know what they need to do? They need to get in touch with the Deep Space Battle Simulator devs, and they need to get together and come out with like some pirate game version of that. Chef's kiss.
How dare you put that out there into the universe?
Chef's kiss. That's what.
Gosh, can you just imagine the frustration?
I can actually I have a unique perspective on how frustrating something like that could be, having played Deep Space Battle Simulator.
Oh gosh, we need to play something else so it's not in our heads too often.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh no, I feel like no matter what we play, that'll be in there. That'll
Just
be
scarred, yeah. Just scarred. I will never see space games the same anymore.
Same.
After
I
that.
love space games. What the hell?
I know.
God. But yeah. So BB, we started off the show saying that we were probably going to end with a short episode, and it's been an hour once again. But that's what this is. That's what the BB&J Show is. It's just two guys hanging out, and you know, conversations go, and they go places, and we went a lot of places today. We discovered that you know, sometimes remakes lack charm, and EA shits on everything that they touch, and that there is only one good pirate game out there, and that perhaps a Deep Space Battle Sim pirate game crossover is, you know, maybe that'll be better than Deep Space Battle Sim. Anyway, we're coming to the end. BB, do you have anything that you'd like to say?
Pretty much the same thing I always say, which is, if you're still watching this, you are an MVP.
Yes, you
Thank
are.
you so much.
Yes.
Thank you so much for you know, for checking us out every week. We do appreciate that. I appreciate that, and I can't wait to keep doing more.
I cannot wait to do more as well. As BB said, if you are still here, you are either asleep or drunk or an MVP. Either way, we love you. We'll be back. You know, I always say next time, but it's turning into a weekly thing. I think this is 9 episodes in 10 weeks. So more than likely we'll be back next week. We also have, again, stay tuned. There is a special project coming out that we can't discuss really yet, but we keep teasing it because it's really good. So keep an eye out for that. Check out our stuff down below. We leave our Twitch channels and our email, and as I always forget to do at the opening of the episode, when like most people are here, if you've made it this far, consider liking the video, subscribing to the page, leaving a comment, and dinging our dong to be notified when new videos come out. For BB, I'm Jay. This has been the BB&J Show. Thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you next time. Stay safe and be well. Catch you next time.
What up, fam? Thanks for watching.
For more of the BB&J Show, click subscribe, click like, and click the bell for notifications when we release new videos.